Hi there, kiddo. You want to see my book? It's called If I Lived Alone. It's a pretty cool book because it is part of the Sesame Street Book Club. I don't even know if that still exists. And it's featuring Jim Henson's Sesame Street Muppets. Oh, look, there's everybody. I see Ernie. I see Cookie Monster. And who's that? Big Bird. And there's the Count. Oh, and Grover. Near 4. Oh, don't forget Oscar. He's the grouchy one. It's Uncle Waylon's favorite. This book is called If I Lived Alone by Michaela Muntian. Illustrated by Carol Nicholas. This is where I live. My mommy and daddy live here. My big sister Farah and little brother Ricky live here too. Sometimes it's noisy in my house. Sometimes it's crowded in my house. Sometimes I have to be quiet because Ricky is asleep. Sometimes I wish I lived alone. If I lived alone, I could have a room all to myself, and everything in it would be mine. I could sit quietly all by myself, or I could make as much noise as I wanted, whenever I wanted. But if I lived alone, I wouldn't have anyone to talk to when it rains and thunders. If I lived alone, I could eat chocolate ice cream for breakfast, vanilla ice cream for lunch, and strawberry ice cream for dinner. And I could eat as much as I wanted. But if I lived alone, I wouldn't get to have any of Daddy's super duper flip-flop flapjacks. If I lived alone, I wouldn't have to share my toys and my books. Look, she's a rocking horse. Sailboat. I see crayons. Oh, and there's a ball with stars on it. This is big storybook. She likes to read too, huh? But if I lived alone, who would read to me? If I lived alone, I could stay up as late as I wanted to. But if I lived alone, who would hug me and kiss me and tuck me in bed? If I lived alone, I wouldn't have to help set the table or pick up my toys or do anything I didn't want to do. Ooh, what a mess. But if I lived alone, who would help me tie my shoelaces and who would put a bandage on my knee if I fell down? If I lived alone, who would play baseball with Daddy? Who would help him weed the garden? If I lived alone, who would help Mommy with her sculpture? Who would talk to her when she takes Ricky for a walk? Hi, baby Ricky. If I lived alone, who would listen to Farah's secrets? Who would share Ricky's crackers? I guess I can't live alone, because if I lived alone, everyone would be lonely. Oh, Daddy's taking pictures. The end. And there's Big Bird again. Bye, Big Bird. Bye, Cookie Monster. Bye, Ricky.